Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us again for another episode of Spincast here on Stay Plugged In. Today, joining us from the beautiful state of Florida, we have Sheridan McGuire. She is the social media manager for Florida State University. How are you doing today, Sheridan?
I'm doing well, thank you. And thank you so much for having me.
We appreciate you being on, sincerely. I think just getting the message out to a number of our audience members in respect to, hey, what is esports? What are all the moving components within those clubs or teams, et cetera, is important just for the students and the parents really to kind of understand what student life is like in an esports club and so forth. So anyhow, without further ado, if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about how you got to Florida State in the esports world in general, but also what led you to the position there as the social media manager.
Definitely. So I wasn't really big into esports. I'm a very big video gamer. I play a lot of Minecraft, like way too much Minecraft. And so I got down to FSU my sophomore year after studying abroad, and I joined this like gaming club, and it was very casual. And one of those nights I met my current boyfriend, who introduced me to the esports club. So I kind of joined as a community member. I didn't play on any of the teams, but I saw that there was kind of a lack of social media presence. We did have a social media manager, but I didn't feel like we were putting out the content we needed to. So in April of 2019, I applied to be the social media manager, and I ran unopposed, and I became the social media manager.
I'm glad you won.
Yeah.
Good deal. Good deal. So talk a
Yeah,
little bit
definitely.
about the club in general, and meaning the makeup of it. Are there multiple different teams along a lot of different games, and roughly about the size of the Florida State Esports Club?
Definitely. We have teams for a bunch of different games, including Apex Legends, League of Legends, Overwatch, Hearthstone, Fortnite,
Wow.
Valorant. We have tons of teams. We have 5 teams for League of Legends. So that tells you a little bit about how big our league community is. We have like 2 Overwatch teams, 2 Valorant teams, about 2 to 3 teams for each game. So we have a huge community. And we have a lot of like viewers as well, and people in the community who aren't even on teams, who just kind of like make up the casual gaming aspect of our club. So we have a bit of both.
Gotcha. That's fantastic. So large club in general.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about some of the event structure. Obviously right now, a little difficult, we get that, but prior to, maybe over the fall, kind of beginning of the winter into the beginning of the spring before we got shut down a little bit, what were your events like? Were there a lot of tournaments online predominantly, or were there more LAN events where people can kind of come to a facility there? How did that all work for you guys?
So we don't really run a lot of our own events, but the ones that we did run, we ran a huge LAN event in the fall. I believe it was in November. It was called the Florida State Invitational, and it was a huge Smash tournament. Because unfortunately the building we were hosting it in didn't have Ethernet, so we can only play Smash. We had a bunch of Smash players, and it was really awesome. We had this huge trophy made of glass. It was really cool. We ran a lot of like viewing parties. When our Rocket League team went to New York City, we had a viewing party to watch how they did. We ran some Overwatch League viewing parties and stuff like that. But we mainly go to LAN events such as Gatorland at UF, and other online events that we just like participate in.
Cool. You mentioned one in particular that struck my curiosity a little bit. You had a Rocket League team that went up to New York?
Yes. So our Rocket League team, this was when we began our partnership with our athletics department. We participated in the EGF Power 5 Esports Invitational.
Yes, I've heard of that.
And so it went on for about, I think, 4 to 5 weeks of online play where we faced off against Georgetown, Washington State, LSU, and I'm missing 1 or 2 teams.
Ohio State?
Illinois State, and then I think I'm missing one more. I'm very sorry.
But they're not important anyway.
They're not important.
I agree.
But we ended up traveling to the finals during New York City. I thankfully got to go with as a social media manager.
Awesome.
And we got to support our team, and we ended up getting second. And it was really awesome. And the EGF people are awesome. They supported us, and
Cool. Now, had you been to New York City before, or was that your first trip?
Never. This was my first trip to New York City, and it was amazing.
Awesome. So again, that's pretty neat just from a perspective of here you are. You weren't really big into gaming, but you decided, hey, let me join the esports club as their social media manager, and it provided you some opportunities. So if you could, let's talk about that aspect for a moment. As a student, being part of the club and what that provides from a social aspect as well as a day-to-day aspect. What do you think a student gets out of it?
Well, definitely we give them a community of people to like hang out with. Like even if they're not on a team, we host these in-houses events for like League of Legends, like 10 mans, get 10 people together and we'll like go head to head and face off in, I don't know, league stuff. But we definitely give people the opportunity to compete,
Sure.
but also the opportunity to make friends and participate in more casual events. And we've talked to a lot of our students and a lot of the people on our teams. And the biggest thing that they bring up is that FSU Esports is like a family to them.
Wow.
And they just like to meet their friends. And even if they don't come to the meetings, we host a lot of online stuff. And it really like brings people together.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Let's talk about your job specifically now with social media. And there's a lot of attention typically put together with social media. You see a lot of really good things that can come out of it. And then sometimes you see some not so good things. So talk about specifically your responsibilities, but also some of the things that you would like to see or not see on social media.
Definitely. So my job in general is to run the Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, those kind of platforms. What I do kind of more behind the scenes, I make all of the graphics, I make the videos uploaded to the YouTube channel, I run and produce the podcast that we host. It's called GG Gaming.
Nice.
We're starting to do some player spotlights, trying to talk to and interview our players and find out about them. And I promote like events and all that kind of stuff. So that's like the range of things that I do. But I kind of wanted to look at what pro teams do and like how they promote their events. So I look at Florida Mayhem in particular because I really liked what they post when they have game days. So I took inspiration from that and I post these game day graphics with a clip of our players playing whenever they have a game day. And it's gone really well. People really like that, and I like to put faces to names, so I have pictures of the players that I include as well. As for things that I would not like to see on social media, obviously because I represent our university as a whole, it's really important to word things correctly and participate in memes that are like appropriate enough.
Right.
Like there's some memes I feel like I can't participate on that kind of level because it might not be appropriate and might not fall into line with the university's standards and what they think is okay. So kind of trying to find that line of what's funny but also respectful and representing the university.
Understood. So along those lines, I'm sure based on some of the scrims you guys have and matches you guys have tournament-wise and things like that, I would suspect you form some rivalries, whether it's against, again, local competition or schools that are further out. What can you tell me about that? Do you have some traditional rivals that you guys have formed?
Obviously UF. And it's good because they host their LAN event, and we have a good rivalry with them. When our league team took first place at their LAN event, we played the FSU fight song.
Awesome.
Which could be a little bit of bad manners, but you know, it was also kind of funny. Our schools have this rivalry already. So, and then our Rocket League team has a little bit of a rivalry against LSU, mainly because they are incredible Rocket League players.
Wow.
And then we've played against Boise State before in some like grudge matches kind of thing.
Cool.
It's not the rivalries aren't as strong as the football ones, but
Sure.
we like try to stay in line with football a little bit.
Understood. Well, football's been around for so long that those are deep-seated rivalries. This is, give it time. Trust me.
Oh, yeah.
So a couple things you mentioned as the social media manager, you kind of gave a job description and everything you do beyond and behind the scenes, if you will. So from a resume perspective, talk a little bit about that. What opportunities could that potentially provide you from a career path perspective, just because you got involved with esports, but also do you have an idea of what you'd like to pursue?
That's a good question. And as I get closer to graduating, I have considered all this. I definitely take these skills that I brought to the table initially and have continued to improve. And I add those to my resume, stuff like graphic design and video editing and all that kind of stuff. And I definitely make a big point that I was a social media coordinator for Florida State Esports. I also add in some interesting metrics. We are one of the faster growing esports communities in Florida. Wow. So I definitely like to talk about that. And I have applied for a few social media intern positions, crossing my fingers that I get any of them, but there are tons of other social media managers who do just as great of a job as me or even better. So
Understood.
Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. Why do you think Florida State's program is growing so rapidly? Any thoughts?
That's a good question.
It's you. It's because of you.
I don't want to give myself all the credit. We definitely have amazing teams. Our League of Legends team is absolutely insane. We have challenger players. Our Rocket League team has been insane. We have grandmaster players. Wow. I definitely want to give some credit to our teams, and without them, I feel like I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, no, I'm sure they definitely make your job a lot easier being able to promote a good product, obviously. So that's fantastic.
Definitely.
Last two quick questions. For you, what is your favorite part of the job? Of your position anyway?
I think interacting with our teams and, being able to go to these LAN events. I was very blessed with the opportunity to go to New York City. I was very blessed with the opportunity to go to Charlotte, North Carolina with our team as well. Those are not only meeting people within our community and building relationships with them, but I've also been able to meet tons of collegiate leaders across the United States from all different schools by going to these LANs, as well as going to like DreamHack Atlanta. It's a big event we go to, and just like meeting people. I really like people. Good.
Well, based on your role, that's a positive. That's a plus. That's fantastic. Now, the last question is kind of the opposite to a degree. If you could change anything in the esports landscape, not necessarily your job in particular, your position with social media manager, but in general, the landscape of esports, what would you change?
I would probably change like toxicity and sometimes the lack of inclusivity within communities. As a woman in gaming, I have done a lot of research on these communities and how people are affected, particularly women in the community. Sure. That would be a big thing that I would change, and I would make sure that everyone's included and not discriminated against, even if it's just in like a jokey way. Stuff like that.
Understood. And to your point, just for our audience sake, I have a daughter who's going to be a freshman in high school. So I 100% support that last idea that you have. Yeah. People show a lot more bravado, obviously, when they're hidden behind a computer screen as opposed to in person, so that kind of sometimes hinders certain people from getting on and doing more with gaming, even though they might really be passionate about it. So I agree with you. Part of our mission as a company is to really try to build a solid foundation for everyone that has a passion for gaming, so that as they grow through the ranks, get to you at Florida State and beyond, et cetera, they're kind of going about it the right way. And sportsmanship is critical. And I think, to your point, that will lead to more diversity and inclusivity and less toxicity in general. So I'm with you there 100%. So good deal. Well, we are pretty much up on time, but sincerely, again, really a pleasure, to meet you. I wish you the best of success as you guys move forward. Sounds like your club is doing a lot of really good things. Sounds like you're doing a fantastic job there for them. But again, just sharing your input and your viewpoints is really special for me to be able to share with my audience. So I sincerely thank you.
Thank you so much for having me once again.
No problem. Awesome. And we would love to do a follow-up maybe sometime in the fall, just kind of check in, see how everybody there is doing. Hopefully we'll be a little bit back more to normal, if you will.
Yeah.
And kind of go from there. So hopefully you guys that are watching, hopefully you enjoyed this episode of Stay Plugged In Spincast, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you.